Okay, so I'm going to shoot a little bit of a response here, see how quickly I can do this, to Divinity 33372 and her most recent video, Talk to Us, Not About Us, People. And this was a very animated, very interesting video, and I haven't really said too much about some of the videos that have gone on around this. I know that, I guess some people have seen the video that Valerie and I shot about some of these issues. I think the way I would want to chime into this, and first I just want to say that I really do value and enjoy Divinity 33372's videos. I think she's a real interesting, powerful voice here on YouTube. I think the way that I would want to just chime into this discussion right here is to maybe come from a different angle and to get at the problem of being an ist or of having any kind of ism. I think there are senses in which to be, as Valerie would say, a non-joiner can really be to one's advantage. And to say that I'm interested in the rights of all peoples and I want to protect the rights of all peoples, but I think there is a problem in that, from a certain angle, someone could say there really is no such thing as a sex worker, at least not in the abstract, any more than you could say there's such a thing as a person. See, if I say there's such a thing as a person, I kind of confuse myself because there's only particular people, and if I say there is a person, the person would have to be tall or short, or they'd have to be young or old, and they'd have to have a certain kind of skin color, and they'd have to have a certain complexion, and their hair would have to be a certain length, and they'd have to always be positioned somewhere in the world. And so this whole notion of a person just in the abstract is very problematic. I think the same could be said of sex worker, especially if we're going to say that sex worker includes everything from prostitution to stripper. Now, I don't know, but I think both male and female, right? This isn't, again, a gendered issue, I think, or a sexed issue. I think if you would ask people how many people would have an issue of marrying someone who had been a stripper in the past, both male and female, and how many of you would have issue of marrying someone who'd been a prostitute in the past? Now, I don't know. My guess is people's responses to that would vary. Now, if they would vary, I think that means that some people seem to make a distinction between those two things. I'm not advocating for or against either. I guess what I'm trying to show here is that there do seem to be some kinds of categorical ways that people think, and yet on the, I think we want to problematize that because I think there is a sense in which, well, every case is different. I mean, it really is different for different people. And to be a stripper in some kinds of clubs where there are, maybe major bouncers and real protection there for the ladies is very different than some situation that's potentially seedy where people are grabbing at you. I mean, I think, one of the videos, or an earlier video that Divinity had shot was talking about, there's a difference of propriety of what people are allowed to do and what they're not allowed to do. And even there, it's probably, very particular to the situation. I think, maybe part of the concern here in these kinds of discussions are that how do we talk about the best interests of all parties without resorting to some sort of us and them groupings? I mean, I think feminism itself as an ism is fractionary, and then from there you get, there's anti-pornography feminism, or something like this. It becomes some kind of us, but I don't think the us works in the right way. Let me see if I can get at this in a certain way. Like, imagine a situation where there's a young boy, and the young boy is in a family gathering, and as it's there, it's a young white boy, and the grandfather there, again, happens to be a white man, right? We'll say it's all this white family, and the grandfather says to the little boy, whatever, and he tells him some joke, and it's a racist joke. And the little boy looks up at the grandfather and says, "Hey, don't say that, Grandpa. That really hurts my feelings when you tell a racist joke. I mean, it hurts me when you speak of that people this way." And then the grandfather gets offended and he says, "Why would you say that? I wasn't speaking in any way that offended you. You can't take umbrage with that. You can't be offended by that. But I think we want to say some real moral progress would go on if people can take offense to what they're not necessarily the group being offended. You know, like if I can suddenly be offended by racist jokes, even though I'm not the particular race who's being stepped on right there, I think that's real progress. Right? See, but you see that? I mean, there seems to be ambiguities here where we want to say that some people are in a kind of privileged position because they're one of that group and only that group gets to make that claim. But in other senses, I think we want to say, no, look, there really is no group. It's all just individuals. And then there's this third section that comes out where we end up saying, no, people need to be enfranchised to be concerned about issues even if they're not of that group. We spin all the way back to this. How do we talk about universal human interest concerns, and how do we do it in non-divisive ways, recognizing the individuality of all of us, recognizing that all of us are unique, we have unique situations, and we're stuck in, I guess, unique practices and relations, but there are still, we think in categories, we think in these broad, sweeping, again, terms like strip club or stripper or sex worker or even human, or if we talk about feminism, or we could do it to other things. We could talk about atheism or theism. People become Christians or they become Islamicists. I mean, any of these categories, I think unfortunately they fall into divisive, fractionary kinds of, I guess, they just derail the conversation in so many ways. It's I don't know what to do other than say I want to do a shout out to that video. I think it's an important video. I don't know how to begin the conversation though in a way that is able to accommodate for the kind of reality of categorical similarities where we say, yes, people of this group have this sort of group experience, but we also want to say, look, everyone's experience is unique and different, and we want to recognize that. But then on a larger sense, we need to be able to recognize these universal global concerns about human rights generally construed. Okay, so thanks for that video, and I don't know if any of that helped, but I hope that it did. Thanks.